NATO Summit is underway right here in Washington. And the NATO armies are conducting the largest war drill, the Rim of Pacific exercise, RIMPAC, with Asian countries. While the NATO Summit is a plot war for war, RIMPAC exercise is a war maneuver. NATO countries' leaders gather to stimulate war, and soldiers gather to train for war. And the participation from ROK and Japan is proving that the next war they are plotting is in Asia. We are the anti-imperialist platform. We gathered here to fight against NATO war machine with the just banner of anti-imperialism and anti-war. From last week, we held the anti-NATO demonstrations and conferences, and even in the pressure of US imperialism and hot weather, we are struggling at the street right here in front of White House for 3 days in a row of NATO summit period. Let's chant the slogans together. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
The people united!
We'll never be defeated!
The people united!
We'll never be defeated!
We will listen the first speech from a comrade from PRCF.
NATO is the biggest threat for peace on earth. Too long to remind all the conflicts, bombing and crimes it has been involved in. Speaking from France, I should talk to you about Gaddafi, which was murdered by NATO and the French President Sarkozy. Libya was a rich and prosperous country that has been crushed because of imperialism. It's no coincidence that the NATO war to demolish Libyan state began less than 2 months after the African Union Summit, which on January 31, 2011, gave the go-ahead for the creation of the African Monetary Fund later that year. As evidenced by email from Obama administration, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, later brought to light by WikiLeaks, the US and France wanted to eliminate Gaddafi before he used Libya's gold reserves to create a Pan-African currency as an alternative to the dollar and the CFA franc. This is proven by the fact that before the bombers went into action in 2011, it was the banks that went into action. They sequestered the 150 billions invested abroad by the Libyan state. What's more, in the Balkans, in February 1994, NATO aircraft shot down Bosnian Serb aircraft violating the airspace over Bosnia. This was the first war action since the founding of the alliance. And in doing so, NATO violated Article 5 of its own founding charter, since the war action was not motivated by an attack on a member of the alliance and was carried out outside its geographical area. Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, and now Russia. The war in Ukraine is a direct confrontation between NATO, which attacks Russia first, and this last country that is struggling more and more against the disastrous consequences of this rotten imperialist system. Day is today, the day arrives when the empire will fall. We must do everything that is in our power to provoke its inevitable end. The Maidan Square putsch was accompanied by a campaign of persecution directed in particular against the Communist Party and the trade unions, similar to those that marked the advent of fascism in Italy and Nazism in Germany. Party headquarters destroyed, leader lynched, journalists tortured and murdered, activists burned to life in the House of Trade Unions in Odessa, unarmed ethnic Russians from eastern Ukraine massacred in Mariupol, bombed with white phosphorus in Slavyansk, Lugansk and Donetsk. It's a veritable coup under US NATO control, with the strategic aim of provoking a new Cold War in Europe, to strike and isolate Russia, and at the same time to strengthen US influence and military presence in Europe. Faced with a coup, and the offensive against the Russians in Ukraine, the Supreme Council of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea voted to secede from Kiev and request annexation to the Russian Federation. The decision was confirmed by 97% of votes in favor in a popular referendum. And of course, NATO and the EU then accused Russia of illegally annexing Crimea and imposed sanctions. Under the guise of denouncing Russian aggression and the pretext of international law and the UN Charter, which NATO violates by its very existence, is in fact a justification for the war waged by NATO and the EU by proxy in Ukraine. Yes, they will fight Russia with Ukrainian blood until the last Ukrainian is dead. The French army's budget has been highly increasing and continues to do so. The French army chief tell the people that you need to be prepared for a war of high intensity. And France has already sent officers in the battlefront in Ukraine to fight with NATO. And now Macron is threatening that we'll send troops, more troops, to the front. He talked about 2,000 soldiers, but he also talked about Mirage 2000s, which are highly developed fighter jets. And sending those in Ukraine will inevitably and dangerously increase the intensity of the conflict. And France could then have the European lead of the war going on. Macron wants to transform our youth into cannon fodder. And peace can not only be obtained with justice, that's why we need to struggle for justice. That's why we need to win against those warmongers. The war is in the essence of imperialism, which is spreading everywhere in the world, and today in East Asia. And that's why we need to disband it. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
The recent elections in France tell us one crucial thing about our politicians. They all agree and keep pushing the war in Ukraine, while at the same time, some in the left side of the National Assembly denounces the genocide in Palestine. But it's the same causes that produce the same consequences on those two fronts. NATO and imperialism are spreading, causing the same wars on and on. And when the third front will open in East Asia, on which side will those politicians will stand? There are good odds that they will stand on the imperialist side. And that's why the people, the workers, have to be the one to claim peace, justice, and dignity. And so the French people still stand here with the real American patriots who have fought against imperialism in 1776. Eternal glory to those who resist imperialism last stand. The anti-imperialist camp will certainly win. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Thank you.
Let's chant the slogans again. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
We will listen the next speech from Union Proletariat.
Bonjour chers citoyens des États-Unis. L'OTAN s'est réunie à Washington pour approfondir son escalade contre la Russie, la Palestine, l'Iran, la Chine et la République démocratique populaire de Corée vers une guerre totale.
Dear citizens of the United States, NATO is gathered in Washington to deepen the war going on against Russia, Palestine, Iran, and Democratic Republic of China and DPRK to a global conflict.
Face aux échecs évidents des forces ukrainiennes, sans pouvoir reconstituer ses troupes sur le front, l'OTAN a opté pour une escalade de la guerre, tant qualitative que quantitative, nous plaçant toujours plus près du bord d'un affrontement nucléaire.
Facing the defeats of the Ukrainian forces and the inability of build new fronts, NATO has bet on the more and more warmongering politics, qualitative and quantitative aspects. And we are now facing more and more the danger of a nuclear war.
Les dépenses militaires des pays d'Europe centrale et occidentale sont aujourd'hui supérieures à celles de la dernière période de la guerre froide et ont augmenté de 62% depuis 2014.
Military fees of Central Europe countries are now over those ones from the Cold War era. And now they have increased of 62% since 2014.
Les manœuvres de l'OTAN dans la Baltique sont les plus importantes de son histoire en termes de troupes et de durée. Et en outre, il se déroule dans ce que l'OTAN considère comme l'espace d'une prochaine invasion russe. Autrement dit, il se situe dans un espace supposé de conflit réel.
The manner from NATO in Baltic countries has never been so high in terms of troops, in terms of intensity, and for a really long time. And also, NATO is going closer and closer from the borders of Russia.
L'OTAN a livré à l'armée ukrainienne des missiles et des drones à longue portée, HIMARS, Storm Shadow, Scalp, Taurus, capables d'attaquer des cibles situées en profondeur sur le territoire russe et dont le seul objectif est de provoquer la réaction de la Russie.
NATO have given Ukraine long-range missiles such as HIMARS, Storm Shadow, Scalp and Taurus, which are capable to attack different positions in Russia, and that should provoke a dangerous reaction from Russia.
De même, l'OTAN reconnaît désormais qu'elle a transféré des mercenaires, des conseillers, des instructeurs, des opérateurs de système et des dirigeants stratégiques sur le territoire ukrainien.
In the same way, NATO now recognizes that they have sent to the front mercenaries and officers in the territory of Ukraine.
Autrement dit, elle admet avoir des troupes de combat sur le territoire ukrainien.
So to say, NATO admits that they have combat troops already in Ukraine.
En outre, de nombreux rapports font état de dirigeants européens qui estiment nécessaire d'envoyer des troupes sur le front ukrainien.
Moreover, many reports attest that many European countries' leaders want to send more troops in Ukraine.
Le président français Macron, puni par son peuple lors des récentes élections européennes et législatives, est devenu le protagoniste de cette ligne.
And the French President Macron, punished by its people during the recent elections, is being the most warmongers in this situation.
Au sein de l'Union européenne, ses responsables les plus éminents ne cessent d'envoyer des messages bellicistes, nous exhortant à préparer la guerre et allant jusqu'à dire qu'il faut davantage de budget car nous sommes en guerre et nous devons la payer.
And leaders from the European Union keep sending warmongering messages, and they want us to go and prepare the war, and even to give more and more money to those wars, because we are already at war and we have to pay it.
Dans plusieurs pays, le service militaire obligatoire est déjà envisagé.
In many countries, the draft is already having more probability to be applied.
Bref, un climat de normalisation de l'état de guerre s'est créé.
Then the conflict tendency is being normalized.
Les autorités tentent d'introduire étape par étape l'acceptation du bellicisme selon lequel la guerre est la seule solution, sans laisser aucune place à la possibilité d'une solution négociée.
And the governments, they try to push those warmongering politics. For those politics, only war is the solution, and there is no negotiation possible.
L'événement le plus marquant a été la récente attaque de l'OTAN contre 2 centres de détection précoce de défense nucléaire en Russie, à Armavir et Orenbourg.
2 famous events have proven this, and when the NATO attacked nuclear defense in Russia, in Armavir and Orenburg.
L'importance de cette attaque réside dans le fait que la question tant évoquée de l'Holocauste nucléaire n'est plus une hypothèse.
What's important with this particular attack is the fact that the question of a nuclear holocaust, a nuclear annihilation, is no longer an hypothesis.
Le risque nucléaire est présent dans les perspectives de guerre.
The nuclear annihilation is now present in the perspectives of war.
Le scénario de l'utilisation d'armes nucléaires tactiques se naturalise avec le risque évident que celles-ci conduisent à l'utilisation d'armes stratégiques et à un holocauste nucléaire.
There is high chances that tactical nuclear weapons will be used, and so the risk as that bigger nuclear weapons can be used, and then a nuclear annihilation.
Il convient de noter que l'installation russe attaquée n'a aucun lien avec la guerre en Ukraine.
And we have to say that those nuclear defenses from Russia have no links whatsoever with Ukraine, the war going on in Ukraine.
Cela n'a aucun sens que les Ukrainiens l'attaquent.
Because it's nonsense that Ukrainians attack this base.
Cela n'aurait même pas été possible sans le soutien opérationnel des systèmes d'observation et de commandement de l'OTAN embarqués sur des avions, des drones et des satellites.
And this attack couldn't have been possible without the support of NATO materials on the planes, drones, and satellites.
Cependant, cela est tout à fait logique pour l'OTAN. Il s'agirait de vérifier si les systèmes de défense nucléaire russes sont accessibles, s'ils sont à portée des armes de l'OTAN.
But it makes many sense for NATO, because it's a test for us to try the ability of these nuclear defenses Russian installations.
Il s'agit également de vérifier leur vulnérabilité.
And so NATO can try the Russian weakness on those bases.
Cette attaque sert à renforcer l'illusion parmi les représentants politiques occidentaux que la Russie peut être vaincue dans une confrontation nucléaire.
So this attack can bring the ideology that Russia can be defeated in a nuclear conflict more and more credit.
Par contre, il convient de noter que Washington a donné pour instruction aux grands médias de ne pas rendre compte de cet événement afin qu'il passe le plus inaperçu possible. Car pour le moment, l'opinion publique n'est pas encore prête pour accepter un conflit nucléaire.
And Washington have said to the press to not cover these events because the people are not ready to accept a nuclear conflict.
Nous ne pouvons pas considérer l'attaque contre l'installation de détection nucléaire précoce comme un événement isolé, puisque l'escalade de la guerre se produit dans tous les domaines et sur tous les terrains, de l'Europe orientale au Pacifique occidental en passant par le Moyen-Orient.
So this event is not an isolated one, and it has a really important sense that we have to figure out. Because the warmongering politics are producing in all fields and in all the countries, in Eastern Europe, in Western Pacific, and in Western Asia.
En Europe, des accords bilatéraux de défense sont en cours de signature avec l'Ukraine.
In Europe, bilateral defenses agreements are being signed with Ukraine.
Autrement dit, introduire l'Ukraine dans l'OTAN par la porte dérobée.
And so, NATO could join indirectly the NATO.
S'il existe un accord de défense mutuelle, chaque pays doit agir pour défendre l'autre, mais si l'un d'entre eux est membre de l'OTAN, c'est l'ensemble de l'organisation qui est obligé de le défendre en vertu de l'article 5 du traité de Washington.
If it's only bilateral agreements between countries, then the country which is allied with go to the war to defend the others. But if the country is in NATO, it's the all countries that belongs to NATO that go to war, thanks to the Article 5 of the Treaty of Washington.
Tout un stratagème pour vaincre le veto des pays de l'OTAN qui résistent à l'escalade de la guerre, comme la Hongrie, la Turquie ou la Slovaquie.
This strategy is meant to struggle against the veto from NATO countries that resisting warmongering's policies, such as Hungary, Turkey and Slovakia.
Dans le même temps, les engagements d'endiguement que les pays de l'OTAN avaient pris avant ce conflit sont progressivement rompus.
And in the same times, the beliefs of NATO countries In the same time, the beliefs of NATO countries to stop warmongering politics have been stopped.
Nous faisons référence aux armes et objectifs à longue portée sur le territoire russe et à la présence de personnel militaire de l'OTAN dans les scénarios de guerre en Ukraine.
I will refer to weapons and military objectives, long-range military objectives on the Russian territory, and at the presence of military personnel and materials from NATO in the war in Ukraine.
L'OTAN a déclaré à maintes reprises que les avions capables de transporter des armes nucléaires, des missiles et des drones à longue portée ne seraient pas livrés à l'Ukraine. Comme le reste de leurs engagements, celui-ci a été rompu.
NATO have assured that planes capable of bringing nuclear weapons inside, missiles and drones, also with long range, will not be given to Ukraine, but as their other statements, they have lied.
Tout dirigeant ou gouvernement qui remet en question, même de manière minime, ce discours est soumis à une avalanche d'insultes et de disqualifications.
And every government or leaders that try to put these statements, to be suspicious about the statements, is being making fun of.
Le président du gouvernement de la Slovaquie, Robert Fico, a récemment survécu à des blessures par balle après une attaque qui a suivi une brutale campagne de criminalisation contre lui pour avoir résisté précisément à cette escalade de guerre.
The president of the government of Slovakia, Robert Fico, has recently been really injured with a bullet attack, an assassination attemptation, after a brutal campaign of criminalization that it has injured because of these warmongering politics.
À présent, c'est le dirigeant hongrois Viktor Orbán qui est directement menacé par des responsables de l'Union européenne.
And now it's the Hungarian President Viktor Orbán, which is being threatened by leaders of the European Union.
Tout cela fait partie de la guerre psychologique.
All of this is part from the psychological war.
Une escalade s'amorce progressivement en niant qu'il s'agit d'une escalade.
More and more warmongering politics are being held, and they deny that they are warmongers.
Mais lorsque chaque petit pas devient clair pour tout le monde, il finit par être accepté comme quelque chose d'inévitable.
But as the people agree on every little step forward until this warmongering politics, then the whole process is being accepted as inevitable.
Zelensky a signé un accord bilatéral de défense aussi avec le gouvernement espagnol.
Zelensky have signed a bilateral agreement of defense with the Spain government.
Peu importe qu'il soit un président dont le mandat a expiré, qu'il ait arrêté tous les dirigeants de l'opposition, qu'il pratique la censure la plus stricte, qu'il a été accusé de corruption et qu'il est un nazi notoire qui se prend en photo souriant avec le gang armé ukrainien connu sous le nom de bataillon Azov, responsable d'innombrables crimes de guerre.
But it's not a matter that his president mandate is expired and that he have arrested the opposition leaders, that he's doing censorship, and he has been accused of corruption, as he's on pictures with Nazis and smiling with the Azov troops, Azov battalion, responsible of many crimes of war.
Le royaume d'Espagne n'est pas un sujet passif dans cette escalade de guerre.
And Spain is not a passive observer in this warmongering war.
Premièrement, parce qu'à aucun moment il n'a tenté de promouvoir ou de soutenir un accord de paix.
To begin with, because at no point Spain have tried to be in favor of peace.
Il a fait le contraire, il a rejoint la logique belliciste dans tout ce qui lui a été indiqué.
But Spain have done the contrary. They have joined all the warmongering politics.
Il vient donc de signer un accord bilatéral de défense avec l'Ukraine qui l'implique directement dans la guerre.
So Spain just have signed bilateral agreements to defend Ukraine. That implies this country directly into the war.
En outre, il a approuvé une aide à l'armement de ce pays de plus d'1 milliard d'euros et l'engagement d'atteindre 5 milliards d'ici 2027. Missiles Patriot, chars de combat et munitions d'artillerie abondantes, entre autres.
Moreover, Spain has agreed to give $1 billion euros to Ukraine and to reach the objective of 5 billion since 2027. Patriot missiles, tanks, artillery.
Le gouvernement espagnol, sous la pression de l'OTAN, a suspendu sa participation au traité sur les forces armées conventionnelles en Europe, par lequel nous nous engagions à ne pas augmenter notre capacité offensive.
So the Spanish government, under the pressure of NATO, has suspended agreements with the conventional Europe armies, and these statements underline the necessity to not go alongside warmongering politics in Europe.
La tenue d'une grande foire aux armes à Madrid en 2025 a été annoncée comme quelque chose de bénéfique et de positif, au même titre qu'une foire du tourisme.
And the event where many weapons seller have been taking place in Madrid in 2025, that will happen, has been announced as something really benefic and positive, as well as a touristic event.
Le Royaume d'Espagne s'inscrit ainsi dans la logique belliciste. C'est pareil, c'est pareil. Sous le drapeau du progressisme, ses dirigeants nous obligent à accepter la guerre comme le seul moyen de faire face aux problèmes.
And so Spain is alongside those warmongering politics. But under the banner of progressivism, their leaders have forced the Spanish people to accept the war as the only mean to face the Spanish people's problems.
Mais c'est faux. La guerre ne convient pas aux intérêts. Mais c'est faux. La guerre ne convient pas aux intérêts de la classe ouvrière et des peuples d'Espagne, mais seulement aux intérêts des élites, aux intérêts des oligarchies financières occidentales qui nous oppriment, nous exploitent et nous considèrent une simple chair à canon.
But that is not true, because war does not fit the interests of the working class and the Spanish people, but only the interests of elites, of oligarchs, financial oligarchs, Western ones, that oppress us, that exploit us, and that wants to transform us as cannon fodder. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
The imperialists, which have exploited and oppressed the people around the world, is now making a war in worldwide. The war, which is designed and provoked by the imperialism, is spreading from East Europe to West Asia, and now is going toward East Asia. It is the time when the people around the world who have been exploited and oppressed by the imperialism, the anti-imperialist forces, to unite together and struggle together against him under the banner, just banner of anti-imperialism and anti-war. Let's chant the slogan. Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Disband NATO!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Stop RIMPAC exercise!
Stop, stop, stop!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
The next speech will be from CPI.
Guys, please move out for a couple minutes. Out of the street, please. I need you to move out of the street, please. We have a motorcade coming through. We need you to move out of the street. It's just on here, just temporarily. You can have them move. Yep. Pretty, yes, just in the crosswalk. Yeah, we don't get hurt. And then anybody else, they can't come across.
They're allowed to be here?
That's fine. That motorcade can come through. Like, can you move that out of the road, please? It's over here. Over here. Come on. To the sidewalk.
Hey, excuse me.
Yeah,
I gotta go back.
Come over here.
Excuse me, I gotta go back. This way, this way.
Hey, listen, they're coming in here. I need this car clear. You guys can push over there. Please go over there. Come this way, guys. This way. Over here.
Come on, this way, this way.
Please.
This way, man.
Yeah,
Yes,
this way, please.
this way, yes.
저쪽 측면으로
Okay, if you don't want to listen, it's not.
오케이.
Appreciate it.
저쪽 측면으로 옮겨.
If they don't want to listen, and if that's what happens, that's what happens. Okay. Go this way.
지금 잠깐 끄자.
Do they understand? Excuse
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
ma'am. Do they understand?